In today's video, my friend Thad introduces me to his close friend Billy Smith, a former NASCAR driver. Billy owns a shop in Rutherfordton, North Carolina, called Cutting Edge Customs, where he specializes in building and repairing classic cars. Billy shares with us his story and what it was like working for NASCAR. And what's your full name?
Billy Smith.
Billy Smith.
Nice and simple. Well, let's not get crazy with the big words.
Yeah. And we're here with our favorite Thad. Yeah. Thad is back from the hospital and doing very good.
Doing better.
Aw. And so Billy, I heard about you a while back because Thad was telling me a lot about you. And so you have a very interesting job that you really love, which is fixing race cars, driving race cars, and it's so unique and I want to learn more about it. But can you take us back to the very beginning? Like, what age were you when you started this work, and how did you just get into it? Like, how does one just kind of start?
Yeah, my dad and his brother were always huge NASCAR fans. So I grew up listening to it on the radio. This was even before it was televised every single week. And we would always listen to it on Sunday afternoon. And, that was the topic of conversation. Who won the race, if it was a Ford or a Chevy or whatever. So that was kind of always in my interest. And I was lucky enough that a guy right here in my hometown actually had a NASCAR team at this time, and he competed in NASCAR's top level, and he was actually Jimmy Means, very well-known independent racer. And, I was always obsessed with it. So when I got old enough that I could actually drive and go on my own, I would always go to Jimmy's shop and hang out and volunteer and just any way I could get my foot in the door. And, I guess eventually I just aggravated him enough. He started paying me, and it was like striking a match to a can of gasoline. Then it was on. There was no putting it out at that point. Mm-hmm. So,
where in North Carolina is the racetrack like that you would work at? Like, because you would fly out of here.
Yeah.
A lot, you said.
Actually, I run in NASCAR's top level, so we were in a different city or state every week. But most of my career I spent in either Mooresville or Concord, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. That's about an hour and a half drive from Forest City, where I live. But that's where that's the hub. Mm-hmm. For all the NASCAR teams. If you want to be in NASCAR, you've got to move to the Charlotte area,
Mm-hmm. Wow. I watched Talladega Nights, and you were actually there when it was being filmed. So you met Will Ferrell and another actor there too from Green Mile. I forgot his name, but that must have been interesting to see. And
oh yeah. It's it really is. And it's one of those deals where we were talking about it actually before we started filming, just the opportunities that are presented to you just by being involved in something as big as NASCAR was at that point. And most of the film work, or a lot of it, was done at Talladega, and they had a section in the garage that was sectioned off exclusively for the movie crew. And of course, I was a big Will Ferrell fan, and and I had tried to watch and all, and on occasion you would catch them walking through the garage area or doing different things, and I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them, and not only that, sort of see how a movie is filmed behind the scenes. And it's amazing they can ever make a story out of it, because you would never think it would all come together, but it, obviously it does. So that was that was one of my favorite memories, I guess.
Do you have another favorite memory from the racetrack, or one of your top few memories, or that you can think of?
I mean,
I'm sure you have tons
I
of really
do.
good ones.
And that's the problem. Most of the time, when you do it for that long, it all turns into a blur. But yeah, there was a lot of times, I can remember winning races or going somewhere and having a really good pit stop, or we had the opportunity. I worked on a lot of Chevrolet factory teams. I had the opportunity to go to a lot of concerts, meet a lot of, got the opportunity to meet the President of the United States, President Bush. Came to Daytona one time, got to meet him, shake his hand, just a lot of different things that I look back on, and I really wished I would have took 2 minutes just to slow down and enjoy it, because now I'm older and I'm not racing anymore and all that's behind me. And I thought, why didn't you take some pictures, and why didn't you? I was always so concentrated on working on that race car and making that race car fast. I wished I would have took the opportunity to slow down a little bit. But if we sit around and talked enough, I could probably come up with some memories.
Yeah. You'll have to show me some pictures.
What was your job actually when you was working on the race team during the race day?
Oh, well, back at the shop, I worked on setup pad. Different spring shocks, combinations of what makes those race cars run so fast. That was my job, to set the race cars up. When we got to the racetrack, I was car chief, which is basically, if you put it in factory type, like if you worked in a factory, that would be like the lead guy. You've got the crew chief, who is the ultimate boss man. His orders come down through the car chief, and then it's the car chief's job to disperse it among the mechanics. We're going to do this first. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And you sort of keep the show running that way. And then on race day, I changed rear tires. For a long time, we done that. And that was a lot of fun, but that comes with a lot of pressure too. I used to say you're one mistake away from unemployment all the time when you do that for a living. They don't take it real well when you're running well and you have a bad pit stop and then you're not running well. So, yeah.
I saw a picture of a racetrack on my Facebook last week, and it's not what you think, where it's like flat and you're going in a circle. It's like,
Oh yeah.
literally like a wall. I was shocked. I saw a picture and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I never thought that.
I don't think TV does a. Don't get me wrong. TV brings a lot of different views, but there's only so much you can do with a camera. I don't think TV does a very good job of showing the banking, and not only that, showing how extremely narrow these racetracks are. Perfect example is Daytona. You see these cars riding around 3 wide all day long. Well, after the race is over, most of the crew members are parked inside. So they come out, go down pit road, and they go through turns 3 and 4, and then they go out of the racetrack on the backstretch, go to the airplanes and fly home or whatever. But I can remember many, many times riding around, and that bank is so steep. When you look out the window, all you can see is asphalt. And it might be, it's obviously big enough for three wide, but I don't see how. I've looked at that so many times and think, that's why these guys get paid the big bucks, because it would scare me to death to go around there 1 car wide, and they're just, so but that's why they get to race on Sunday, I say.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of people don't understand the race team, like when they're saying that they'll come in, you'll hear the chief saying it's a pushing or it's loose.
Yeah.
And they really, really think, what in the world it means called pushing and loose?
Yeah.
Sort
yeah.
of explain that part.
Well, pushing and loose is, in a redneck's term, is when you go down the road and you turn the steering wheel in your street car you automatically assume the car's just going to turn left. Well, when you're driving a race car and it's pushing, what that means is the front wheels do not have enough grip. So you run down in the corner, and instead of that thing just going right around it, it starts hopping, and the corner's going that way and your car's going up the hill. So we always say if it's pushing, you go in front bumper first. If it's loose, you go in back bumper first. So that used to be. I had a crew chief said that one time. He asked a younger driver. He said, "Are you pushing or are you loose?" And he said, "I'm not really sure." He said, "Well, let me ask you this: if you drove it in the corner any faster than you're going right now, are you going in the wall nose first or tail first?" He said, "Probably tail first." He said, "You're loose." So, just a good way to remember that.
Are there any like horror stories that you've seen or heard from the racetrack, or like, I don't know. I'm sure
Well,
there's.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah.
racing is an extremely dangerous
It
sport,
is.
and people get run over on pit road, and unfortunately, people get killed every once in a while in an accident. I was there when Dale Earnhardt got killed, and there is no bigger blow to our sport. That's almost like the Elvis of the business. He was as big and as tough as they came, and I think that made the whole sport realize, like, if they can kill Superman, any of us could, and it's just, you don't ever want to think about that. You want to think just this is safe and we're doing it right. But unfortunately, this is how you make race cars safer, and you learn to make them faster, more dependable, whatever. That's the whole idea behind racing to start with, is to try to improve a street car. Make it more durable, make it last longer, make it safer in crashes and stuff. And, that's unfortunately a sad side of it.
Yeah.
That's like one time we was at Hickory, and he got crammed in the wall and tore the car all pieces and everything.
Yeah.
And he got out, and I think messed one of his tooth up, and
Yeah.
and his
Knocked me
side,
out.
he
Yeah.
knocked him out pretty bad, and
Yeah.
we all thought, wow, what? And
Yeah.
it wasn't. That's Hickory, but you're running like at Talladega at 200
Oh,
mile an
gosh.
hour, then,
Yeah.
or somewhere like that, and then you get in a big wreck.
Yeah.
You're wondering what really gets me. That Billy gets out of this race car at Hickory. Olivia runs over with a microphone, wants to ask you a question. What in the world happened? I've asked this question a lot. Can the football player tell him, say, why did you do that wrong? Well, after he's done it, I'm afraid he might cuss you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Heat of the moment, I guess we should all learn to control our emotions, but unfortunately, that's what sells tickets. That's the reason they make good guys and bad guys in wrestling. It tells a story, and people love that. But yeah, like back to what you were saying before, race cars are dangerous. I mean, I remember that day very well. We were all laughing, talking, joking, cutting up, and I climb in the race car, and we're going to go run just a little 50-lap main event. And 25, 30 laps in the race, I'm in the wall, race car's destroyed, knocked my tooth out, knocked me out, ribs, ankle, I could barely walk. And then when I got out of the car, I was addled, like I had a concussion, and just you're kind of stumbling around like you're in slow motion, and everybody's running and trying to fix, and all you're trying to do is get the room to quit spinning, and like we're not going back out. I can't. I'm having a hard time thinking right now, so let's just calm down and we'll take it back home and fix it and go again another time.
Talk a little bit about why you stopped doing, race car, like working in the race car world. Like, what was the kind of the pivotal moment in your life that made you make that decision?
Yeah, racing was my life forever. I lived, eat, and breathed it, and it's all I thought about. But my wife and I had a son pretty late in my career. I'd probably been doing it 15, 16 years at this time. And that was my first child, actually only now, but it was the only child. And, to start with, it didn't bother me too bad. I'd come home and hold the baby and we'd burp it and change diapers and I'd give it back to the wife and let her take care of it. But when he started getting older and developing a personality and stuff like that, it just about killed me. I could not stand being gone every week. And, we would be in Sonoma, California or Phoenix, Arizona. We were somewhere different every week. And when he got big enough to talk on the phone, he would call and tell me, he's like, Dad, I want you to come home and play with me. Or, Dad, I want you. And I would hang the phone up and I'd just about cry. It would just destroy me because I missed him so bad. And so obviously when you're on the road crew, you race all summer long. So while everybody else is at the beach and cooking out hamburgers and hot dogs, you're pushing race cars. So there's no time for family vacations and stuff like that. So at the end of the year, when the season was over, the road guys usually get a couple weeks off, and we went down to the beach, and it's the middle of November, so obviously we've got the whole beach to ourselves, and we're laying there on the beach, and we're building sand castles and just having the time of our life. And I think my son was maybe 4 years old at this time, and he come up and hugged my neck and told me, he said, Dad, you're my best buddy, ain't you? I said, son, let me tell you something. Me and your mama ain't never going to stop loving you. Whenever the whole world turns their back against you, me and your mama's still going to be your best buddy. Don't you ever worry about that. And so he runs back off and starts playing again. And I told my wife, I said, that's it. I quit. She's like, what do you mean you quit? I said, I'm not going back. I am not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to look up one of these days and he's going to be graduated high school and I've missed it all. Because I was like, I'm only going to get one go round at this to be a good dad, and I'm going to try my best to do it right, And so that was pretty much the end of my NASCAR career. And I don't regret it a bit. I mean, I've done it for a long time, and I've got a million cool experiences, cool stories, whatever. But I've got a bunch of cool ones from going and playing pee-wee football and getting to be a coach and just different things, that we've done since that it's replaced the racing deal and never look back,
Yeah. And now, I mean, you're still continuing to work with cars. It hasn't really ended. And we'll in a bit go outside, and I want to see some of the cars you've been working on. But you have a real talent because not anyone can really work on these heirlooms.
Yeah.
It's a whole. I don't know anything about cars, but obviously heirlooms take more knowledge and work than a brand new 2025 car. It's a different world, and that's what you specialize in.
Yeah.
You're really good at that stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, I have a shop called Cutting Edge Customs, and that's what we do. We just build old hot rods. I say all the time that I'm not interested in putting a timing belt on a Honda, but if you've got an old hot rod or a tractor or anything that's cool, bring it to the shop. I love working on cool stuff. So that's what we do. We strip them down, make them like new again, and send them to the car shows.
I've come down here before and getting ready to go to the races, and he's had an old Ford, and I'm looking at, I'd go back home and I'd think, I just push that thing over the dumpster. And at that time, I might come back down to see the finished product, and I'm thinking, that's talent. That ain't nothing but plainly talent.
Well, I appreciate it, but I call it more stubbornness. I'm never smart enough to know when to say uncle. You know, you always say, "Oh, uncle, uncle." I just keep rubbing on it till it's pretty. That's what I try to do. So, let's I don't.
What is this?
This is a 1966 Chevelle.
Oh wow. Now that's a beauty.
This car is really pretty. As you can tell, it's set out here and got dirty, but yeah, I'm gonna end up building a motor for this one and getting it back going. It's
Wow.
it's kind of funny. It's amazing how things just kind of start showing up at your shop. You know, once the word gets out and once you start doing things. Now this right here is a '77 Ford Bronco. This come to me from a guy whose dad had passed away, and he got left this thing in the wheel, I guess, and they've drove it and enjoyed it for a lot of years, but it's got to the point where it's got a little bit of scuff here and there, and there's just a little bit of rust in it in a few places. So we're going to do some rust repair and paint it and get it all nice and shiny again. I mean, actually, it's a really pretty piece right now, but I think they're kind of wanting to take it to the next level. You know.
Oh, it's pretty.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you recently crashed it?
Yeah, this is some of my handiwork right here.
Yeah.
We went a couple weeks ago, and this thing, I run late models at Tri-County, asphalt late models at Tri-County, and blew out a right front tire in practice, which caused the car to spin around, and actually didn't hit anything. And as I was waiting for all the field to go by behind me, one of the guys lost control and slid into the front of it. So unfortunately, the race car's hurt pretty bad. I'm afraid it's going to have the front end replaced on it, but we will get around to it. It's just been one of those weeks. Believe it or not, the dually that I pull my trailer with, it decided to quit on the way home too. So right now I've got a really full plate.
Yeah.
Actually, this truck, I bought this truck, or my wife bought this truck for me 20 years ago. And it was a bone stock 1954 Chevrolet pickup truck. And you absolutely could not hold it in the road. It was like trying to drive a tractor. So while I was still racing, I just decided I was going to make a hot rod out of it. And I had it basically almost ready to paint. And that's whenever I decided I was going to start building hot rods for a living. So we parked it outside to make more room in the shop. And as you can tell, I'm ashamed to admit it, I've let it rot right back in the ground. So, but really, it's not as bad as it looks. Obviously, it wouldn't hurt anything if I were to cut grass around it, but I think a man could probably pump the tires up and pour a little bit of gas down the carburetor and charge a battery, and it'd fire right back up. I'm kind of ashamed of myself for letting it look like this, but it's like all them pretty girls. It'll shine up pretty quick.
And you brought it to that one show, and everyone was asking you. Like,
Yeah.
And you got like 5 people that wanted you to work for them. And
Yeah, yeah. The very first, remember me telling you about me quitting? Didn't know what I was quitting my job in NASCAR, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So a buddy of mine comes down here at the shop, and I've got a lot of free time on my hands because I have no job now. And he's like, "Hey, they're going to have a car show, a local car show up here." He said, "You ought to take your gray truck." And I just kind of looked at him and grinned. I was like, "I don't know if a gray truck is ready for a car show yet or not." And he said, "No, dude, seriously, take it. I think you'll do better than you think you will." And I just took it up there and put a few business cards around the windshield, you know, just poked them there in the rubber. And believe it or not, I come home from that job with from that car show with 5 jobs to do, and knock on wood, we've never looked back. This old gray, I call it gray dog. I say all the time, old gray dog got me up and rolling, you know. So probably not enough money in the world to buy my old truck, and I'm not saying it's worth anything, but it's worth $1 million to me, you know.